Everyone, Cam Roberts here, and I'm joined with my good mate Trent Gemelli from Cobalt Corp. Trent, thanks for coming on the call tonight.
Thanks, buddy. How are you?
Yeah, very good. We've also got James in the background as well. How are you, James?
Doing well. How are we, team?
Yeah, that's good.
Very good.
Now, Trent did frame up the Zoom call tonight as if you're watching the recording or you're watching live, they're very casual, more like a podcast style, chat. If you've ever watched a podcast, that's the way we roll, and just like to keep it casual. You can ask any questions at any time, so that'd be amazing. Just chime in. I'll be watching the little comments on the side, and Trent can take those questions as we go along.
Yep.
So, Trent, what I might do is first just share my screen so we can see the presentation, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
How's that? Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yep, got it.
All right, perfect. All right, so tonight's topic is discover the easiest ways to earn money from property in the best areas of 2024.
Yeah.
And so here's some of the topics that we're going to cover tonight, along with obviously Q&A. You guys can ask any questions you like at the end of the conversations. But first one, Trent, everyone always wants to know property marketing. Shouldn't be marketing, should be property market predictions.
Yeah.
So we'll just fix that up. Property market predictions for the rest of 2024. What's your take on that? You've always got the finger on the pulse.
Yeah, look, it's completely done in some instances the opposite what I thought it was going to do. Having said that, it doesn't look like it's going to slow down in any great hurry. I know everyone's expecting a rate cut. I'm actually expecting an increase, but we shall see, I guess. I could be completely wrong. So yeah, there is talk about a cut going on. The States are all over the shop. Most of Europe's all over the shop as well. So it's going to be interesting, the balance of this year going into next year and all of next year. But from what we do with respect to the warehouses and self-storage, it doesn't really affect it that badly because we can always rent them, or we often sell stuff out to funds and stuff like that who are always looking for good returns. And these things behind me, which is what we're in at the minute, typically average a return of about 7% net of all expenses. So it's a pretty easy sell from that perspective, and they're not hard to get up.
And what about the areas? Everyone always wants to know the hottest areas, the best areas. What do you look for in a great development or a great property investment?
Yeah, obviously you got to have all the fundamentals there. Good population, all of the infrastructure known to man. Ideally, you want to stick to 15 to 50 k's out of a CBD. Sydney's a bit different, given that.
I think Trent's just froze up there. He's obviously not got his normal house Wi-Fi there, so we'll just wait for him to come back on. James, you still there?
Yeah, I've also lost him.
Yeah, that's cool. So while Trent's coming on board, James, you take a lot of calls. What are some of the most commonly asked questions that people ask you around property developing and things like that Trent often speaks about?
Yeah, there's lots of questions along the similar veins. Along security, I think is a really common route as well. And also people just want to know why we do the developments that we do, I think is probably the biggest question.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay again?
Yeah, mate, there you are.
Don't know, boots me out. I don't know why.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, Southeast Queensland, as I said, but WA is looking quite strong, along with some other areas that we keep an eye on. I mean, since I've gotten back from holidays, I reckon I've been offered at least 20 sites in Victoria. I'm staying well away from there for the moment. Needs a bit more pain before I'm going to look at it. It's really hard to get through council down there, and it's a bit of a mess. So I try to steer clear of that just for that purpose. A lot of the stuff we get at liquidation sales, Wacol, for instance, which we're going to go through a bit later, was a liquidation sale. We've owned it for about 12 months. So we're seeing a lot of that come through as well.
Okay, and that's the fourth one there, distress sales and liquidation sales.
Yeah.
So what do you look for in a liquidation sale? Like what are you looking for that makes a good one?
You know, obviously a huge discount on the price is the
Yeah.
first and foremost part. Anything with a DA, we look at, we assess. We don't take everything on for obvious reasons. We're constantly reviewing different avenues or different sites that we potentially may get. I just found a site recently here in Noosa that has been on the market forever. The owner is finally ready to negotiate and do the right thing. So there's always opportunity everywhere. You just got to be alert to it and aware to it. But as I said, to find a great investment or to find a distressed sale, we're always looking, at liquidation purely and simply as you're getting things for cents on the dollar, and you're getting in with approvals already in place. You have to sometimes amend those approvals to make it a better and a more buildable development itself. But other than that, that's exactly what we look for is just that.
Yeah, and it's that opportunity of making money when you buy as well,
Correct.
isn't it?
Yeah, you always make your money on the way in, not the way out.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Now we've got a few members on the call tonight, on the live call. If you're watching this at another time, I don't know who drew on the screen there, if that was me or someone else.
I was just looking at that.
Yeah,
Someone's playing Mr. Squiggle.
Someone's hijacked our screen.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm not sure how to get that off. We'll work on that. But traditional investing versus new ways to earn money. We've got some members on the call at the moment, as I said. But for those people that for whatever reason that they've not seen us before or not heard you speak before, what's the difference between traditional real estate investing and what we're talking about tonight?
The big thing is time. So traditional investing, buying a property every year for 10 years, waiting for growth, etc. That's the way we were all taught to do it, and it works relatively well. It takes a lot of time. Most people won't get past 3 properties because of borrowing constraints. So you got to look at things like that. It then takes longer, and you've got to service the debt. And most people, I won't say all, but most people traditionally go for residential markets as well, where the average return isn't great because you net of all costs. Versus what we're going to show you today is exactly the same structure in buying stock, but rather than delivering 1 property, we're delivering 30, for instance sake, and we offload them relatively quickly and make it. We create our own growth is essentially what we do rather than waiting for it. And we're not limited to borrowings as well, which is the big part. So, you might borrow in for an investment property at $500,000, for instance sake, and then do it again. You might be negatively geared, your borrowing capacity's clapped out and you can't do anything further. So you sort of just got to sit and wait for for either 1, your rental to come up, 2, your income to come up, or other ways for you to divest and earn money from those, whether you sell them, etc., etc. With our stuff, we're not limited to that stuff. I never have been, which is the reason why what we're going to show everyone tonight, it works really, really well. Specifically, I've spent 25 years in this field doing what we do and get to the point, specializing in finance and development for a long time now. A lot of individuals will have specialities in different fields, whether it's an electrician, or it could be a plumber, or it could be a doctor or a surgeon or whatever. I've got a little bit of experience in the electrical side, but that's about it. Those people are specialists in that field, and we partner with other like-minded clients who are sophisticated investors who want to participate in these type of things without really lifting a finger and sharing the spoils out the end.
Excellent. All right, so that leads on to some of our frequently asked questions. So let me just see if I can flip over a page here. There we go. So some of the most frequently asked questions that yourself gets, I know James gets a lot of these as well.
Yep.
The first one that comes up is, what does it actually mean to be an armchair developer? You mentioned that term. Maybe someone hasn't heard it before. Maybe they've heard it once or twice. What's your take on that? What does that actually mean?
Armchair as developer is exactly as I said just a second ago, which is, people, sophisticated investors, they might be a professional or an executive. They could be an entrepreneur running their business, focusing on their own worlds, and looking to use property as an avenue or a way to grow further by partnering with other people. Again, all of our clients are sophisticated investors. They understand risk, along with have the appropriate structures typically in place to maximize and minimize their tax so that it advances them. So, you know, an armchair developer basically is you become an equity partner in a project. We run it for you. We hold meetings with all of our shareholders that are involved, and then at the end of the day, you are returned a profit for taking the time to work with us. That's the simplicity of it.
Excellent. So all the hard work's done for them, right?
It is, yeah. I mean, our team's got collectively, two of them have got collectively about 100 years worth of experience, billions of dollars worth of property development projects that they've worked on. One of my colleagues, used to do all the Ramsay Health stuff. I think he's delivered about 4.3 billion bucks worth of projects. Just that type of person is hard to come by. And certainly if you're a doctor or a surgeon, for example, or a plumber, it's going to take you a long time to do this on the side, to try and learn this stuff, and get into it, the way we do.
Yeah, and I've heard you say it before in other Zoom calls, because of who you are and the networks that you associate with and the connections you have. Yep. A lot of the times, even when people want to do it themselves, they don't get access to the same level of deals that you get and those liquidation sales that you get presented with.
Well, they won't, because we've already got them. So it's, from our perspective, it's just a matter of touching base with our contacts for that process to happen. Again, the project that we're going to show you tonight is just a valuer contact that we have, put us onto the right person, and we went through the whole process and bought it. And we bought it really well, roughly about 40% off the RRP in this particular instance. And the deliverability on it, what we've been able to achieve from just amending the DA from, I think the original DA was it was either 22 or 24 dwellings, but it came down 8 times. The buildability on it was just rubbish, because you'd have so much in civils and they just had stupid stuff everywhere. And we've been able to increase that to 35 and just do one bench, which saves a bucket ton of money.
Excellent. And the next question is, do people need to be a real estate agent, buyer's agent, or hold any other sort of property license to get involved?
No, you don't need any license per se. It's always good to have things available to you. If you've got a property license, that's fine, but you don't need it. Armchair developer opportunities that we offer don't involve you doing anything with respect to buying, selling, owning, or even developing the property yourself. That's why we call it not lift a finger income. It's all about working smarter, not harder. That said, we do have clients that wish to convert their profit, which is done via a convertible note in the deed, that you can own the stock at the end of the day and benefit from that as well. A lot of SMSF clients talk about doing that, because legally you can buy a commercial property in your super fund and rent it back from yourself legally if that's something you want to do. So there's thousands of ways to skin the cat, but you don't need any licenses to do it.
Okay. Now, before we move on, just a couple of questions have come through the chat. I might just read them out. First one is from Brad. Thanks for the question, Brad. So I'm a builder just starting out. When you talk about sophisticated investor, I'm definitely not, but I'm interested in getting involved, but sophisticated, definitely not. So do you want to kind of expand on Brad's comment, I guess, or question?
What's really the question? He wants to be involved, but he doesn't meet the criteria. Is that essentially what he's saying?
Well, he's saying he's a builder just starting out, and he's I guess it's all around sophisticated investor for him. He's not classifying himself as sophisticated, so probably just help him out with that. What does that look like?
So the current sophisticated investor definition is 200 grand in cash or more. I think it's $2 million in assets and an income of over 250, I think it is combined, something around that, is the current definition. They are looking to raise that because obviously property has gone up significantly, but that's what you're looking at. if you're not a sophisticated investor, Brad, you'd have to sign some forms from the lawyers around that, because the reality is we only deal with sophisticated investors because they're a commercial mindset. Retail investors don't have the same mindset as a commercial investor. They understand risk a bit more and stuff like that. So it may not be for you. That's the other thing. So, you know, this opportunity may not be for you as well, and it could not be for others as well. Sometimes it is not. But yeah, mate, if it was me, I'd probably go and seek some advice from an accountant or something like that before participating.
Now, another question's just come through, and it's probably a question for later, but I'm also letting people in at the same time. So Guy has got a great question, and thanks for the question, Guy. It says, hi, Trent, question for later on in the meeting, but do you have similar projects after Wacol matures?
Yes, is the short answer. We've always got something in the wings, but, you know, right now, Wacol will be done and dusted. I've also got another one under construction at the minute and another one selling out. So currently, there's about $74 odd million worth of stock to be finished and sell, and obviously profit from as well. And then behind that, at present, we've got our foot on about $140 million worth of ongoing ventures to get involved with. So they get stagnated out as we need to work on them.
And when you're talking about ongoing ventures, for those that don't know, what types of development projects are you specifically referring to?
As it says on screen, you know, the projects that I like to stick to is light industrial warehouses, which is exactly what's behind me here. 4 walls and a roof, it folds up. It's very easy. You don't have to fit them out very well. It's sensational. You just have to make sure they're watertight. Self-storage facilities, we do a lot of that, along with some land subdivisions. My previous experience has been in townhouses, units, all that sort of stuff, house and land, etc. But the light industrial warehouses for us is probably the easier of all of it, purely and simply is because we tailor around or tail behind, you know, Lend Lease and those type of guys, and basically choose our areas behind them because they go and develop 400, 800, 1,000, you know, lots. And as the lots get smaller and smaller and smaller, all the toys are still increasing. Jet skis, boats. You can see behind me some cars. You know, people still need a place to work from. We see a lot of divorcees buy this stuff as well because you don't want to go and spend another $1 million or $2 million on a property, so they live in the warehouse. I see that quite regularly. So it's an interesting concept of how it all works. I like these things just because they're easy.
And the other thing I've heard you say many times in regards to the industrial warehouses and self-storage facilities is the demand for them at the end of the project, right? So like once they're all finished and done and dusted, it's not a big problem to sell them out, right?
No. I mean, we generally pre-sell up front. We generally get 5 or 6 straight away. That's just at launch. And then as soon as the walls are folded up, they just sell like hotcakes. And we only sell out the first mortgage debt. The rest of it we keep and generally rent out. So there's another option there. The other thing we see quite regularly is funds coming in and looking for them. So for instance, you could get a super fund, a finance fund, buying that. If we convert self-storage, there's ways to sell out to the big players there as well. So there's uplift there. So there's all sorts of avenues. The big thing with anything at the minute, you know, if the market were to turn and go down, for instance sake, a lot of our stuff is, you know, 500,000 to 600,000, which is affordable. You know, if you go and buy a $2 million warehouse, for instance sake, you know, you want to be getting some serious returns for that. I don't like doing that personally. I like, you know, the nice fit little things that we can get in and get out. You know, people like me, you know, can go in and store stuff in them and rent them and do all the bits and pieces. Alternatively, it could be, you know, anywhere, all sorts of workshops rent out these type of things. And it's not real hard to get rentals in there.
Yeah.
And with an average of about 7% yield net, it's any bank will look at it.
Yeah. And like you said, you follow around the big guys, right? The Lend Leases of the world, and they've already spent millions of dollars researching growth of areas and things
Yeah.
like that, right?
Yep. Yeah, and you'll see that on the IM.
Yeah.
There's huge information and infrastructure and stuff that comes through as well.
Excellent. All right. So next question, moving right along. Do I need to access capital, equity, or cash to get started?
The short answer is yes. Developments require funds. As you know, money creates money. Most sophisticated investors have at least 200K to transact with at any given time. You can do so via a company, a trust, your super fund, or in their personal names, whichever they prefer is best for their situation. It could be in your wife's name, it could be in your kid's name, whatever. It's however you decide to do that is entirely up to you. You're buying shares into a special purpose vehicle, which is generally a unit trust, and then that unit trust as a whole works with the development entity, and there's a mortgage in tow as well. So, that's how it all works, and depends on how many clients we have in on each one, but that's traditionally how it's looked at.
Excellent. Next one is always about the returns. What sort of returns can I expect?
Yeah, so the minimum we have is 18% annually. So that you'll see a little bit later that what we're going to go through tonight's a little bit different. But traditionally, we have seen 18% or more. A lot of them up around 25, 24, 25, and beyond. A few at 50, a few beyond that as well. So, but that's where we like to sit nice and comfortably.
And how much is borrowed on each development project?
Traditionally, we buy the land outright, and we fund the construction. So the bank will lend generally around 50%. It'll sort of be around 48 to 53% LVR, depending on the project itself. Will depend on the civils, driveways, things like that. And then with our clients and our equity partners, the blended rate between the two doesn't go over 65% LVR on the total sellout. So what that means is, on a $10 million project, if we borrow 5, there's $1.5 million in there from clients. That's your 65%. The profit is the balance of.
Excellent. Now we've just got a question from Paul, and you may want to answer it later on. But
Yep.
what is Wacol expected percentage return?
We'll go through that in a minute.
Yeah. Another question that James gets asked a lot is all around the first and second mortgages,
Yeah.
and he does his best to answer it, but it also comes up on these Zoom calls. So, and I've had a few conversations with people, and they get a bit confused if they've not heard this term before, and they think that often, not always, but they think that they've got to come up with the first or second mortgage for their funds. So, can you if someone's never heard about this before, can you unpack that?
I wish I had a whiteboard. It would really help. Yeah, look, the first and second mortgage is easy. So, as I said, we purchase the land outright. Then we fund using a bank. It's not your Commonwealths and all that sort of stuff. We use second tier lenders, always have. There's a reason for that. We pay a little bit extra, but there's other avenues that there's no directors guarantees and stuff like that, which allows us to grow. So the bank takes first mortgage, again, just using the simple version before, $10 million project, $5 million lend. So there's a $5 million first mortgage. We have to sell that out. And then the clients or the equity holders or the shareholders, you guys, have a second mortgage for the 15%, just using that same example. Once we sell off the first, the second becomes the first, and then we can choose to either sell it out, refinance you out, or, as we said before, some parties like to use the convertible note and own stock. So there's 3 ways to get people out at the end of every venture. Every venture is different. They all have their own little life cycle. So, whilst we say it might go for 8 months, it could go for 10 months. There's so many moving parts in them. But it also could go for 6 months. There's pros and cons both sides. And one of the projects we're doing at the minute, we're about 6 weeks ahead on the build, even with all the rain that we've had. So it's pretty cool.
Excellent.
Does everyone understand what I went through then? Yep. It's pretty simple. We try to make it as simple as possible. Obviously, first and second mortgage is it is what it is. We can't give you first mortgage when we've got a bank involved. They will take first. There's no way around it. And a second mortgage just sits there until the first is extinguished, and then we move forward and allow that to get into the first or pay you out. It's that simple.
Excellent. Can development projects ever get delayed, and will I ever lose my capital?
Delayed, yes. Unfortunately, we're at the helm of government departments and their statutory timelines, which never seem to come to fruition. So, for example, we had one site that we had Energex out for the first sign off. They signed off everything in full. We had a few things go on in the meantime. We had to resell a project. Anyway, we had them back out. They wouldn't approve the same approval, and it ended up taking them 10 weeks to finish the same thing that they'd done 6 months ago. So unfortunately, that happens. If you ever have the joy of dealing with TMR, which is Department of Main Roads in Queensland, they're just a joy. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's 8 weeks to get an email returned on those. Sometimes DAs will go out a little bit. They'll issue what's known as a request for more information. Not often with what we do. It's more to do with if you're pushing the limits too hard, they'll put in an RFI. And that's just recently increased. So it used to be 20 working days, it's now 30 working days. And they can extend that twice before it's an automatic DA. That's happened before, but generally they'll put conditions so far along, it's not funny. So you're better off working with them in that instance. So yes, projects can get delayed because you are reliant on a lot of statutory partners. The Titles Office, for example, were out to, I think, 14 or 18 days the other day, and they're supposed to turn things around in 6. So those happen. That happens, sorry. We've never lost a client's capital, full stop. Been in the game for a long time now. I've never allowed for that to happen. Have I had projects go backwards? Yes. We've always paid our clients out if that be the case.
Excellent. And another question that's come up, and a client, I should say, actually did do this not long ago.
Yeah.
So the question is, what if I need to get my funds out? Like, I transact, I get started, but for whatever reason, I need to get my funds out early due to some sort of emergency that pops up. How does that work? What happens then?
So this happens rarely, but it does happen. Where a family member might pass away or something emergency happens. Unfortunately, that's life. Just shit happens. So in the instance of that, what happens is you have to notify all your other shareholders, the group head, director, because it's a separate entity that we have nothing to do with. You have to go to them first. Generally speaking, what will happen is one of their fellow shareholders will buy you out, and you'll negotiate what that is. If you want out early and quickly, typically you'll get out with zero profit. However, I've seen instances where people have negotiated through that and, worked with that as well. So that's entirely how it works. It's all done via a solicitor and the accountants that we're involved with, and who set up the entities for your benefit. So, Mark and Damien from Street of Law and McKern, they will basically help you work through that process, or help the group work through that process to make sure that that's done efficiently. It can take some time. So if you're expecting your money out tomorrow, it's not going to happen that fast. It generally takes about 6 weeks.
Excellent. Next one, who manages the development projects?
My team do that. Again, we've got over 50 consultants on our books at any one time, hundreds of years of experience and billions of dollars under wraps. So for me, it's just easier to go through who we use. One of my team, Matt Solomon, has as much experience as me and runs most of our development projects. So he basically liaises with all the consultants and works through that. And for those of you who do participate, you will obviously chat with Matt as well.
And another one that comes up towards the end, or people start thinking about it as they're transacting on the way in.
Yep.
What if I don't want to take my profit at the end? I get to my 12 months or 18 months or 24 months, whatever it takes. Can I take stock instead of profit, and how does that work?
Yeah, the other one we get is, I don't want to pay any tax. Can we roll it straight into the next one?
Yeah.
Yes, you can take stock. That's not a problem. So if you want to invest your return back into asset, not a problem. If you pull it out or sell it at any particular point in time, you are going to pay tax on the return, and depending on your own structure, if it's in your personal name, you're on income tax, company tax, trust, you have to distribute and go through a company or your person, an SMSF, you can work it that way. It just depends on, all of that just depends on how you're structured.
Excellent. Another one that pops up, Trent, why don't you just do the developments yourself rather than offer them to other people and sophisticated investors?
We do, but we can't do everything. I see, on average at the minute, we see about 20 reasonably good projects come across the desk at any one time per week, of which we're pretty selective of what we choose, and we only cherry pick the ones that we want. But I had a client the other day who wants to do one himself. So we're able to and are able to package up a deal and sell that to him, and put it together so that he basically just takes over and does his thing. So, we do it. My wife and I do a lot of projects on our own. She's just finishing a renovation at the minute. We're looking at another little land subdivision ourselves, just here, as I said, here in Noosa. Along with a few other bits and pieces. But realistically, we've offered this service for a while now, and it works really well. We've had our ups and downs. I'm not going to say that it's COVID was not easy, but we just can't do it all ourselves. So we do offer it to other parties, and we have the capacity to do more, but we don't generally have the availability at all times to do them. And that's where clients come in and say, yep, I'll pop in and come into this one, and I like the looks of this, or I might be able to go into a multiple if it comes to that. So that's what we look for.
Excellent. And one of the terms you just used then was cherry pick, like you guys cherry pick the developments. Can you share that story about the, it's that John West, reject the ad on TV, what John West rejects? So can you talk about, without mentioning names, can you talk about that competitor who, took one of the ones that you rejected?
My ex-business partner. Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to say that.
Yeah, I can say names. There's no problem whatsoever. It's our webinar. I won't, but Matt was assessing a site about 24 months ago. It was a little bit longer now, but about 24 months ago, and basically just turned it down straight away. Anyway, lo and behold, my ex-business partner, or one of my ex-business partners, snapped onto it. Now they're still trying to fund it. You'll just never get it through because of the complexity of the site. That's why we knocked it over. It's got every overlay known to man, and that's what they didn't do their due diligence on. So they're stuck with a lemon, basically. But it happens all the time. You don't do enough due diligence. One of the ones I'm working on at the minute, the vendor is trying to push us into a contract, and I said to Matt the other day, stress test the vendor. We've got such and such at 5 p.m. You've got to be signed. I said, just let it go, see what happens. And all of a sudden we get another week and another week. But that particular site requires environmental. I have to do it. There's just no other way around it.
And Matt's, like you said before, got a wealth of experience, but he's also a great negotiator, isn't he?
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, he's such a good negotiator.
He's a hard negotiator. That. And he does some very, very convoluted, complex things to our advantage.
Yeah, excellent.
And it's quite interesting.
And obviously that, benefits all the members. And they don't see that in the background, but, just knowing Matt myself, he's, a very strategic and very clever negotiator.
6'4" teddy bear.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
He's a unit, but it's you just got to have the right team around you. That's all it comes down to. And a mate of mine called me today, Steve Harrison, who's our superintendent and consulting engineer. We've been looking at for a while a race car facility up on the Sunshine Coast, and he called me today and he said, "Look, I know of one around." So those deals come up when they're ready to come up.
Excellent. And you spoke about pre-selling before.
Yeah.
So, it's a good idea to kind of dig into it a little bit more now. So what does the pre-selling involve? Why do you do it to minimize the risk of the project?
Oh, look, pre-selling is about removing the risk of debt. So we, for instance, sake on, and I'll just use that as same example, is on Wake. Oh, actually, I'll use Wacol. So Wacol, we need to sell about $24 million worth of stock on a $45 million sellout. So, to get early EOIs is a really good thing for the lender. Not that we require it, but it's just something, it's a nice thing to have. So we typically will come in and kick a few off at a pretty low rate, not too low, but low enough to get rid of a few. And then we just step up and stage up as we go. One of the projects, Yatla, which we're doing at the minute, it's the one that's about 6 weeks ahead of schedule. I think we've got 7 or 8 pre-sales, and we only need 12 to cover debt. So, we're not very far off that. The walls have gone up, so the inquiry just goes through the roof. But when we launched Wacol, I think it was earlier this week, we had 8 inquiries the first day. And all good qualified people looking to buy stuff around that region. So I don't think it's going to be a problem selling, talking to the agents, etc. It's going to be easy. But as I said, we've also then got the top half of the block is self-storage. So our intention is to keep that and then rent them all out and then flog it at some point in time to a Kennard, not a Kennards, but those self-storage type groups.
Yeah, Mammoth self-storage and
Yeah,
guys like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so that's good. So we've gone through all of the FAQs. So now's a great time to ask Trent any questions you like about your own situation, about a Wacol or any projects. So feel free to either unmute yourself and just ask on the mic, or if you're a bit shy, just pop it in the chat.
Did Paul?
Hey, Trent.
Oh, sorry. Who's that?
Paul.
Hey, mate.
Oh, yeah.
Good. How are you?
I'm good. A few abbreviations of bigger words. DA, just to remind me.
Development approval.
Okay. Dev proof. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got DA, BA, and builders, and the other one. I'll think of it in a sec.
Okay. IM.
Information memorandum.
Memorandum.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll run through that in a minute.
Okay. Yeah. I'm that student. I'm guilty. I'll always ask a question, and
it's all good,
usually
man.
going to be on track.
I actually didn't realize I didn't say it. Usually I don't like abbreviating things. I'll say the whole thing. So it's good that you picked up on it.
Yeah. When I teach or lecture or whatever, I try and say I'm in holistic health, and I say the anatomical term, and everyone looks at me cross-eyed, and then I give them the layman term.
Yeah.
I think just with your breakdown of what's required to be a sophisticated investor, I think we just make it over. And I've had a couple of chats with James.
Yep.
In leading up to this, and for us, it'll be a self-managed scenario through my wife. So she'd probably be out here, but she's a baker, so she gets up pretty early in the morning. So she's
fair enough.
So, yeah. Interested. And I'm sure James and I spoke about it, but I was really interested in what governs a 40% buy-in on something. What's sort of the structures around a block of property that you can come in.
Yep.
And you can snatch it up, because obviously there's a lot of profits in that for your investors.
Yeah. Can you just rephrase that question? Are you talking about the 40% to you, or are you talking about the 40%?
No, the 40% that if I understand it correctly, you're saying it was you bought it at 40% of market value, basically.
Oh yeah, under market value. Yes.
Under market value, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So 40% under. So you bought it at 60%. Okay, so that helps increase obviously the percentages you gain at the end.
100%. Yeah, and because we've been able to increase the yield, which was the big thing, obviously there's a huge markup there. The difference of about 38 million to sell out to 45 million, like it's fairly large. And the biggest one was on that particular site, it was 2 actually, it was the 8 levels that they had. There was about, it worked out to about $6.5 million in civils. We're down to about 800 grand at the minute with the benching that we're doing. There's just one thing we're not quite finalized on, but we're talking 100 grand. Like, it's nothing huge in comparison to the whole project. But the other thing is they had these stupid design things in the middle of nowhere it was like $1 million to do this one roof because it was all glass and all the bits and pieces. So we just got rid of that. So
you basically come in and you reconfigure it, and your utilities are costing you less as well. So this is where all the markups come in. Okay.
Yeah. So our role is to figure out the highest and best use of any site. And you heard me say before where it says, we're always looking at buildability. Because the walls are easy. They do these on site. All this wall gets done. That wall gets done on site. They lay it on the floor and they lift it up with a crane. And then they just join them together. In this instance, in this room, I've got 4 doors and a roof, and that's it. And there's a little lavatory and all that over there. Other than that, there's not much to them. And then the outside, there's obviously work for the civil contracting. The last term I was going to say was op works. That's operational works. That's to put a shovel in the ground was the last term.
Okay. I'm a rookie.
That's right. We all were.
But I feel like I'm an old rookie. So made some mistakes with selling real estate when I shouldn't have.
Yep. We've all done that.
Yeah, and you learn, that's what they're there for, aren't they? They're all to learn from.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to maximise and leverage my equity and my potential leading up to getting older and getting closer to, per se, retirement age.
Yep.
I don't think I'll ever retire. I'll never stop being busy.
No.
But you obviously want to get to a point where you can do a few more things and have a little more autonomy to do things more that you want.
100%.
Yeah. I find this really interesting. Initially when I saw it, I think I saw it on Instagram maybe.
Yes.
Is that where you do it? Yeah. I've been looking at a bunch of different things to just try and see what fits best and where we get our biggest yield.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll go through it. We're going to do an information memorandum review in a sec, but we'll go through a few more questions in a moment, and you guys can see what's there.
I won't hold you up anymore.
No, it's all right. It's perfectly fine, mate. Not a problem. Not a problem at all.
Cool.
Any other questions that we want to go through? Scott's written, what's the forecast per quarter for Wacol? I'm assuming that's what it means. Can you just confirm that, Scott? All right, so I'm going to run you through the generic IM and as you practical completion, we're looking at PC. It'll be somewhere in the vicinity of March, April next year is when we're looking at practical completion. So I'll go through it in this IM in a second, but essentially where we're at right now, I've owned the site for roughly about 12 months. Originally, my wife and I were going to do it alone, but we decided to do it in the business. The pictures and the renders on the photo just there are exactly what it is. So we've spent the last 12 months re-engaging the whole thing and doing all the bits and pieces that's needed to be, getting all the approvals in play and all the bits and pieces. We're now in the tendering position. So what that entails is we're tendering builders and civil contractors. And we expect that to be done and turning dirt next month. Early next month is the aim. We probably, it's not guaranteed just yet, but we're probably going to use the same builder that we're using on the other one that's 6 weeks ahead of schedule. We're expecting the build timeline to be between 8 and 10 months, depends on a few bits and pieces. But I'm pretty confident with that. And about 2 months through council is the timeline. So in June 2025 is the expected finish date, paid out, done, dusted, all the bits and pieces. Now, that may move, and it does. So if the builder's ahead, obviously we push forward. If there's something that delays it goes back a little bit. So that's where we're looking at for the whole thing. That's a really good question, Mick. Does the council allow living in storage or warehouse? Short answer is no, but more and more people are doing it, is the answer to that one. We see, as I said earlier, we see a lot of divorcees get into them. I've said to my wife, if we ever got divorced, I'd be sleeping just over there, because it's easy. I don't require a lot, and I'm not going to go and spend. And it depends where everyone lives, but in Noosa, the average house price up here is $2 million. And I don't want to go and spend another couple of $1 million on another house that is just a keepsake, basically. So yeah, and very well said. Brad said fire marshals hate it. Yeah, they do, but it's hard to stop with the amount of housing problems that we've got these days, and it's only growing. If I was the amount of people sleeping in cars and stuff like that, I could sleep probably 100 people, and get them off the street if that be the case. So I don't think they're really going to have a choice in it moving forward, but we'll see. Location of the site, we're about 22 k's out of Brisbane CBD on the south side. Huge access to everything, so you can get west through the Toowoomba Ranges and go out that way. You can go north, obviously, to the Sunshine Coast, to Brisbane CBD, to Brisbane Airport, Brisbane Port, all the way to Cairns, or you can go south, to the Gold Coast Airport, or alternatively Sydney, Melbourne, etc., etc., etc. Huge amounts of infrastructure going in. What most people don't know is when Springfield went in, and no, it's not The Simpsons. It's actually a suburb, and it's a pretty awesome development. There's no traffic lights between that development and Brisbane Airport. Not many people know that. So it's a pretty cool run. Yes, there's tolls, but it's a pretty cool thing. And then you're looking at the Brisbane Olympics. If it goes forward, they may pull a Dan Andrews on the Commonwealth, but we'll see. There's inland rail projects. There's all sorts of stuff going. They've just committed more money to the Bruce Highway as well. So huge infrastructure around. We're getting huge inquiry. It's through the roof. So we just continuously see lots of inquiry come in from this area, the other areas that we choose. We traditionally, as I said, this warehouse I'm in at the minute is 220 square meters. Most of our stock's anywhere from 100 to 220 square meters. In Wacol, for instance, sake, there are a couple of bigger sites. I think they're 500-ish, somewhere around that. As I said, location, it's pretty straightforward. There's Wacol. It's near Richlands. It's right on the backside of Springfield, as I said. And we have done a few through there, through Ellen Grove and all around through that region. Actually, it's quite a good area to be involved in. So that's where the location is. That's the plan. We had to change, so you can see it step down from on screen, from the right to the left. You can see down the bottom left in green, it says a bio basin, so it slopes down that way. And the whole top section, the bench is actually that green line just on the first section on the right there. That was the bench. And as I said, they had it stepping down left, right, and center. That top section on the right of screen there is where we're going to put the self-storage. So because there's in and out and we can lock it and do all the bits and pieces, it just makes sense for that. They're the final plans that have been signed off, and we're working through that at the minute. We will have a live-in residence because legally we're allowed to, and specifically with the self-storage, we will do that as well. The renders you can see on screen. It's a warehouse. That's all I'm going to say. It slopes downhill. We bench it down as we have to. We have to put all the trees and all the business in there. There probably won't be a big palm tree in there. I'll just quietly say that. I'm not a big fan of them. Mehul, yes, preference for clients or shareholders to buy warehouses. We offer that to them up front. It's up to them whether they want to get in early. If you get in early, you'll get it at a discounted rate. That's just how we sell it. And then it will go up. Now, the big news I heard the other day, we originally did the FISO on these at about 4,400 a square meter. All of the agents in the regions that we're dealing with have said the new rate's 5,000 a square meter. So we know we're on the money with it.
Thanks, Trent.
That's all right. Just keep asking questions as you go. I'll keep answering this. We're running through. So if you want to be involved in this, until Friday, it is actually the last time we're actually offering it, but For those who want to participate in this particular venture, we do have, I think there's about 10 or 12 spots left. It's 50% return flat rate. Now, in 12 months, it's ridiculous, I know. That is being dropped as of close of business Friday to the 18%. There will be a position there after Friday where we offer probably a bump up to 24%. That will be the absolute maximum that we do. But from here on in, we see more and more clients want this sort of stuff, and that's why we've gone down this path. But if you do get involved, and I'll explain the fee on screen in a second, so just bear with me. But if you do get involved at this particular juncture before Friday, so all you have to do is fill out the expression of interest, pay the fee on screen. Could you just populate that up again, Cam, please? Yeah. I just want to break it down as to why. So with respect to clients coming in for your 50%, you can put as much as you like in, or as little as you like in. I think the minimum was 150 on this particular thing. Of that 3,499, 3,000 inclusive of GST is paid to the solicitor. That covers the solicitor's fees, it covers the constitutions, it covers the accountancy fee, it covers the company and trust setup, the deeds, the shareholders, all that. So essentially what you're doing is buying a share in an entity. Now, in this instance, it's a unit trust. So you and your fellow shareholders will own shares in that unit trust. 3,000 is paid to them, and you'll get a receipt of payment from them as well. Funds are paid into their trust account. They sit there until you sign all the documentation. Once it's all signed, said and done, the funds are then released to the project under what's known as a deed, a joint venture agreement, a loan agreement. It's all the same thing. And the $499 is an admin fee just on our end for our staff to help you run through it and go through the process, whether it is a one-off thing. But you can get in today, get that 50%. If you put a couple of $100,000 in, for example, that's a $300,000 return. So you're 200 back plus 100 in 12 months. So it's pretty cool. So for those who are genuinely interested, that is there for you. Now, there are a couple of clients on here tonight as well. They've already been through the process. I'm sure, if they want to, they can explain it, but it is, as I said, once you fill the expression of interest in, pay the funds, fill the expression of interest in, Street of Law will reach out with you. You'll fill in the required documents. So if it's an SMSF, if it's a trust company, whatever, even if you're setting up an SMSF, you can still lock that spot if you want that. So that's not a problem. I had a request today from a client to do that. So I've given him, it takes roughly about 3 to 4 weeks to set up an SMSF. So you can hold that spot for that as well. I've got no issue doing that. So it's up to you whether you want to take up that. As I said, come close of business Friday, it is dropping down to the 18% or 1.5% per month, whichever way you want to calculate it. So it's a pretty good opportunity for people to get involved if you want to, or if you have the means to now.
Excellent. And I should just mention, Trent, I've just popped that checkout form also in the chat that's on the screen. So the guys, if they want to go to that form, easy to fill it out, just name, email, phone number, all the usual stuff. Yep. And that gets sent over to Street of Law as well. And as Trent said, once the funds are paid into trust, you'll get a receipt and away you go. Yeah.
Mick, share certificates should be issued this week for those who are involved. They generally do it on a couple of week basis, depending on how many clients come in. If you haven't received your share certificate as well, you can always reach out to Dean or Mark. They can do it for you on the spot. Another question we always get, and I just want to run through this, is, do I need to engage a solicitor? Look, you can if you wish to, but just understand you're going to be paying for 2 solicitors. So the $3,000, Street of Law represent the group as such, and they put the deed together between the 2 entities. So they can give you the information that's required. They'll set you up, do what you got to do. If you want someone to then go and review the deed separately, you're more than welcome to do that. We did have a lawyer come back the other day for a client with a laundry list of changes, and the answer was no. So, because the way they were looking at it was from a personal level, I need personal security against the development, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work that way. You're buying shares into an entity. That entity has the security with the developer and development. That's where the second mortgage is. So it's just one of those things that what they requested was all about personal change, and we just said no, because if we were to do that, that hinders our agreement with. We can't do it because it completely voids the deed that we sign with the group. Why are you offering 50% return now while the others are only getting 18%? That's a really good question. We had offered 50% previously because we get to a certain point where it needs to get to. That certain point happened when the DA came out, which was about 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago. I've been away, so we gave people the opportunity to participate still at the 50%. As I said, come Friday, that's ending, and it'll be ended for good.
Yeah, so I should just clarify Warren's question.
Yep.
They can still get the 50% now. You're letting them get that, but only until Friday. That's correct?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So end of business this Friday, it'll go down to 18%.
Yeah.
And then, as Trent said earlier, he might do an uptake of 24% for a fast action bonus.
Yep.
But that's where it'll be, and that's where it'll sit from here on in.
Kevin, will the developer be secure? Not sure what you mean by that. If you can just rephrase it or just unmute yourself and ask. Returns are not paid monthly. They're paid on completion. For Warren. Cool.
I think Kevin was late into the Zoom call tonight. I did see him come in a little bit later. So
Okay.
maybe he means is the development secure or something? So maybe he needs to go back and watch the recording about first and second mortgages.
Does he want to unmute himself and just
Kevin,
ask?
Kevin, are you still around if you want to just jump on?
Or pop it in the chat, either or. Has anyone else got any other questions? Don't be bashful. How much do you need to contribute? Ideally, 200 grand each. There have been a couple of clients put in 150. Basically, the way it's structured at the minute, from my understanding, is it's in $50,000 share. I think one share's 50, something like that. One share is either 50,000 or 50,000 shares is 50,000. I can't remember which way they've done it.
I can just, if you answer the next question, I can pull up the form stack from Street of Law and I'll tell you.
Guy, do you have a similar, later for this meeting, do you have similar project after Wacol matures? Yeah, yes, I do. Is that the last question?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, there's other projects behind this, but right now Wacol is the focus. So if we onboard before the end of business day on Friday, the return is 50% return on cash, yes. It sounds a lot, I know, but it's not unusual in this game.
So Trent, just to clarify, 100 units was $100,000.
Okay, cool. Yep. I was driving and listening, not sure if I heard it right. Yep, no, you heard it right. It's
Sorry,
so
yeah.
before Friday, you will get, if you put 200,000 in, you'll get a return of 300,000. So you're 200 plus 100 at the end of the project.
Right. So, and I also joined a bit late, Trent. So sorry if I'm
That's all right.
asking it again. So what's the duration of this project? I expected completion. Is it 6 months or
12 months. So our expected completion
months.
is
Okay.
June 2025.
okay? Cool.
We're currently tendering for a builder and our civil contractor. So it won't take long. It's just now a matter of getting that done. We're expecting to turn dirt in early June. We know who we're going to use for a builder already. It's just we have to go through a process for the funder.
Thank you, Trent.
And I've just popped a link there that the guys can grab the IM as well.
Yes. Yeah. So that's there as well. Warren, is my understanding correct? If I pay the 3,499 to secure the deposit to secure my spot, yes. But in two minds whether to do it in our discretionary trust or individual name, that can I sort that out by next week? Yes. Not a problem. So if you secure your spot, what will happen is once the funds clear to us, we pay that straight to Streeter Law. But in the meantime, you'll be getting all the links that you need to fill out. Those boys will reach out to you directly. Once the 3,000 hits their account, they'll issue you a receipt as well for your funds. Once you sign all the documentation through them, and the questions will be, is it your discretionary trust? Is it super, personal name, your underwear, whatever? They'll figure that out with you, and then sign that on accordingly. Once that's all executed, you then pay your funds into their trust account, and it's all said and done.
Yeah, thanks, Guy. Appreciate you coming on tonight.
Paul's
Thanks,
got a
guys.
question. Sorry. So I've got people all around the shop. Hang on one sec. Great info. Not a problem. Paul, if you're talking, you're on mute, so I can't hear you.
Sorry, Dick. Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, just quickly. I think you mentioned before it depends on our personal construct on what we pay on our return and taxes and things like that.
Yep.
Obviously we all want to pay minimal fees or tax on our 100, right?
Yep.
So what's your recommendation or suggestion there?
That would be advice. So I can't give advice. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
56.
Okay, so you're in pretty much getting into retirement mode. If your accountant doesn't suggest looking at the super option, as you already previously mentioned, that's the lowest tax bracket. And at your age, you can start to look at that. I'm 47, so it's still a bit, I wouldn't do it, and I don't do it for that reason, is because I then can't access those funds to go again. All right. So for me, I'm better off going through a trust and then pushing it out to a company. Our company pays on average, about 22% in tax across the board, plus GST, of course. So for me, that's the best way forward. So if I earn 100 grand, 22 is going to the government, doesn't matter which way I look at it. And the balance is mine. Having said that, if I own stock, there's no tax until I sell.
Yes.
But you have to pay transfer duty and stuff like that. You can't get around that one.
So I'm thinking, with a self-managed, we don't need to take that. We can leave it in stock for a while.
If you choose to, yeah, because you can get the rental income. But just understand the transfer from one to another. So from the development entity to you or your super fund, there'll be stamp duty in between. Right. Okay. But where you save, we don't have to pay agents. All that sort of stuff comes out. If you get in early enough, then the opportunity to make a little bit more money, because you might buy it, say, 4,000 a square meter, and they're selling at 5,000 a square meter. You know what I mean? So it's all factored in that way. So it's up to the individual to obviously work out the best structure. I met a couple just recently. I was overseas for a bit. That had moved to Dubai, and they're expats from Sydney and are paying zero tax. So there's 1,000 different ways to skin the cat. I'm of the opinion you've got to pay them something. For those who, I get it all the time, so I don't want to pay any tax. Well, you're going to pay tax. It doesn't matter which way you look at it. They're going to get you, and the ATO are not very fun at the minute for those who have the joy of dealing with them. So you've just got to look at it, and again, you've got to seek advice from either an accountant, a registered financial planner or stuff like that, which understands what you want to achieve. If you don't have one, I can certainly recommend one. My accountant is a financial planner and an accountant, obviously. and he's extremely good. So, you know, and he's a mate of mine. So he's, you know, you just got to look at the best ways to suit you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool.
Yep.
Thanks.
The difference is in super, it's 15% tax. It's that simple.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks. Cheers.
No problem. Participants need to join Kings Club first. No, Kings Club is separate now. This is just Wacol, so the 3499 is just Wacol. Kings Club, if people want to join Kings Club, that is still available for clients, and they'll get access to the fixed money return stuff, all the extra stuff that's in that as well. So that is now separate. Ashish, sorry, I might have missed it. What costs are involved with the deal other than the minimum investment fund of $150,000? Do you mean cost to you, or are you talking development costs? Is the question I have with that. I'll let you answer that. How is the price of stock determined if we choose this? Warren, I'm assuming you're leading on from owning stock was the previous question, I think you said. So Matt Solomon, who works for me, what he does is he acquires a piece of stock straight up. He's one of the pre-sales. Now, the reason he does that is he knows that we're going to load the first couple at X amount of dollars, and he knows he's going to get growth out of it. So if you are looking at that option, it's always good to get in early. Again, within the deed, every shareholder has the option of a convertible note, and all that is you can convert your shares into stock. It's all done through the solicitors. It's not done through us. But from our perspective, it's a bona fide pre-sale. So from our perspective, it's a lot easier to go through the process. So yeah, the price is determined. What we typically do and what Matt does, this is where he spends an absolute bucket ton of time, is researching the market, see where it's at, what's what, etc., what's selling, what's not selling, what's required. You know, is self-storage better? Is light industrial better? What sizes, where, etc. And basically what he will do is he'll talk to anywhere from 5 to 10 agents and sort of gauge the market. He jumps on CoreLogic, which used to be RP Data. We'll check sales data. He speaks to our valuer, gets his opinion. So there's all this information that comes through, and then he'll make an assessment on the feasibility accordingly. So for instance sake, you know, originally when we were looking at Wacol, we knew the sellout was about $4,650, and originally we priced it up at $4,000 a square meter. Then we sort of looked into it a bit further, found out that realistically it's probably going to be closer to $5,000, so we pushed the value up to $4,400 a square meter. Now, we always like to have a buffer in there anyway, but we know for a fact that whatever our feasibility says right now, which is roughly about a $45 million sellout, if we increase that by roughly $500, $600 a square meter, we know it trickles over 50. So it's just, that's what my team do. He puts in a tremendous amount of work. He stresses out more than me for whatever reason, I don't know, but you know, he does a lot of work and is the reason we work so well together. He has done his own developments before. He doesn't want to do it personally. He's got a young family and he loves just working for us. And you know, as I said, does what he does. He just acquires one site out of every development and just builds his asset portfolio up and his income, mind you. Yeah, can you provide your accountant's details? Yeah, I can, Warren. We generally provide it to clients. Just please understand that I've got Damien's personal number, and even I struggle to get hold of him. So you'd have to book in and stuff like that. But yeah, we can provide that. It's not a problem.
Now, Trent, I just popped my email in there as well. So
yeah, cool.
So as Trent said, usually it's like if you're, you know, already on a project or about to be on a project. Because those guys are busy, but we can hook you up. And just want to backdate to one of the questions, Ashish. Yeah. So the question was, you know, are there any other costs involved? Like, you know, if Ashish or anyone else was to get into the deal, do they have to pay the costs for, you know, fees, admins, lawyers, any further costs as the projects move on?
Nope. It's the $34.99, $3,000 again. Including of GST is paid to the solicitors, the accountant, to cover all costs associated with setting up your entity that you're buying shares into. So it covers the lawyers' costs, the deeds. It covers the constitution, the shareholder, the company setup, GST registration, the accounting costs, and all the bits and pieces associated with it. The admin fee is for my team, Carmel and those guys, to work with you and make sure that everything's working, and same with Cam and James and everyone else involved. It's just a fee to cover off on costs that we incur. So for instance sake, if you use our payment gateway, this is just a reality of it, $34.99, 2.5% comes off that money straight up just for Stripe as a payment gateway, the merchant fee. So it's $87-ish roughly that comes straight off the top for that. So that's just the way that works. But there's no further cost to you. Once you're in, you're in. Do you have to pay it again when you do a new venture? Yes, because it's a new company per se to do another one. So if you're putting 200 in one, 200 in another, and 200 in another, then you're going to be paying the $3,000 for the other two as well.
Trent, I was just thought to inquire about renewables, in the sense of I work in renewables.
Yep.
And do solar farms with all these sorts of setups. Isn't it more likely to sell things if you make it where they're like, say, off grid, make it where they've got solar on there, just part of the package, and things like this, so that it's a lot easier for them to run?
It's funny you say that. The answer is no, shockingly. The reason for it is most people, I don't know why it is, but most people can't be bothered with it. We've looked at it multiple times, and it adds absolutely zero value to the overall product. It's an interesting thing. I get the question a lot, but it's funny. We've done it and because my farm, for instance sake, is completely off grid, and I like it that way. But a lot of the projects now we don't do it because it's just the cost to do it versus the return we're actually ended up losing. It's an odd thing, but
there you go. Okay. Yeah,
that will change. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I do large scale solar farms, and it's basically just curious, I guess, on these sorts of things.
It's funny how it works, isn't it? Because I thought the same thing. Let's put solar on them. Let's make them full energy independent, all the bits and pieces. But yeah, the agents were just like, no, don't bother. It makes no difference to the purchaser.
There you go. Okay.
It's an odd thing. I thought it would make a huge difference, but it doesn't.
There you go. Yeah.
So, next one here, Trent, Rav.
Yep.
And you've already covered this, but obviously he was late to the game. Is return paid out only after all warehouses and stocks are sold?
Yep. Because it's a fixed return, you got to pay it out of profit. You can't. So this all comes back down to the mortgage thing. So for instance sake, we can't pay a monthly thing because it voids our agreement with the first mortgage. We can't pay early because then it still voids the deed voids both mortgages in that respect. So we have to under the deed pay out the first mortgage and clear that. We then have to pay out the second mortgage and clear that. But as I said, we've got multiple ways that we can do that. Traditionally, when we pay out that second mortgage, traditionally we pay the return with that mortgage. So as we pay that mortgage out, we then pay the return straight in, same day, next day, whatever it is. But it's all done via PEXA, which is the legal thing they use now to settle property. And then the GST is paid through as we go. But that's not neither here nor there to you guys.
With the portion that you were saying that you plan on keeping to lease out, how does that generally work in the sense of, say, I guess that is just kept as a separate portion within the entity? What I meant was, is there any way to leverage that for investors where they get to leverage on that return on investment as well. Like,
if you acquire one, you can. But if it's retained as profit for like my profit, for instance, sake, then I lean on it and use it for other things.
okay, I thought you said that a portion of it you were actually retrofitting as for self-storage.
Oh, in that instance, yeah. So basically, what we do is we choose which ones we want to hold. So whenever you drive past a land subdivision, for instance, sake, that's just been launched, and say, 30%'s been already sold, that's the 30% for the developer. Let me tell you that right now. So with the self-storage in the instance of this, because we're on a set return of 50%, the 50% will be paid, and then we basically can choose to do what we want with the self-storage later on. So if we choose to sell it there and then, we do. We might choose to just rent it out and hold it as an income asset, then so be it. If you want to purchase one of the self-storage items, you can. There's no problem there. But as the equity fund, and because of the set return, it's the first mortgage, second mortgage return, all have to go first, then the profit sits behind that. I hope that made sense.
Thank
you. Is the costs involved in the other deal? Hang on, sorry, that's not right. How do you guarantee a 50% return? Is it a time-bound contract? And what happens if we don't achieve 50%? That's a really good question. The return is it's a portion of the development profits, right? So the equity fund, as I said previously, is generally about 15%. Sometimes it's less. In the instance of this one, I think it's, don't quote me on it, it's either 7 or 10%. I can't remember. And the return is based off that. There's no time-bound contract per se, but there is within the deed, we have to achieve certain results by timelines. The reason it's offered is because, as I said, it was previously offered, but it does end on close of business Friday. And we are moving to the other option, which is option 2, 18 or 24%, and that is on an annual basis. So for instance, if the project takes 14 months, you paid out an extra 2 months worth of return. I don't expect this to take anything more than 12 to 13 months, only because we've been working on it for so long. In the instance of this, I don't believe you're not going to get your 50% because I'm contracted to it, or the development is, sorry. So, that's all set in stone up front. But as I said to you, our aim is to sell out the first mortgage debt, which will be about, I think it's $24.5 million from memory. And then from there, we can choose to either refinance, we can choose to sell further stock and pay out the second mortgage, which will move into first mortgage. Alternatively, we can refinance it, but we will see and have seen some clients want to take stock, so we use the convertible note option there as well. But that's all done up front before a profit margin's seen. Hope that made sense.
Yeah, that was good. Yep.
Not a problem. Right. Any other questions? Because my ass is getting numb.
Yeah, I'll give Trent a bit of a break just to catch his breath. He's done a great job tonight.
I'm going to have to stand up. This is killing me.
So, guys, if you've got any further questions for Trent, we've gone over time. We usually like these to be short and sharp, in and out in 1 hour, trying to answer everyone's questions. We've popped a few links in the chat already for you guys. So if there's anything else you need, let us know. Let's make sure we just have any final questions over to Trent now. Otherwise, we're going to wind it up and say thank you very much.
Cool.
And what I'll do, I'll just pop that form in again, that checkout form. That's the one Trent was referring to, the 3499. So very easy process. Just fill that out. It's fully automated. We get notified straight away. Myself, James, and Trent. The solicitors also get notified straight away, and you'll be on the road and running.
Yeah. So it's very simple. As I said before, you click on that link, that secures your spot. If you need to set stuff up, that's okay. We're happy to do that. Just let us know up front. Of that 3,499, 3,000 Inc. GST gets paid to the solicitors. That covers all those costs, which I went through before. You'll be dealing with them direct. They will give you all the information that you need. They'll issue share certificates, etc., etc. Funds will be paid into their trust account. They will also give you a receipt of payment for the $3,000, which is all tax deductible. The $499 just covers off on some administration fees from our end. Once you've done that, you're in. As I said, COB Friday, everyone knows, I've said it 1,000 times to my staff as well, it will then drop, and as you saw in the information memorandum, to 18% for the balance of the venture, or the balance until it's filled, which I don't think will be too long. And once that's all said and done, it's over with. That'll be done, dusted, and out of the opportunity. The 50%, this is the last time it's ever going to be offered. I can't say that enough. It is the last time. So it was always for the early adopters. But in this instance, we're well and truly through where we need to be. So it's now just a matter of us going through the tender process. We've already started. It generally takes about 3 weeks. We're about 2 weeks in. We know who we're going to use for the build. We're just waiting on the civils. We're expecting, as I said, to turn dirt in early June, and then from there work on roughly 12 months. And that just covers the build contract, which is going to be somewhere between 8 and 10 months. It covers the timeline through council, which is 8 weeks, give or take. If there's any delays or whatever from the council perspective, that obviously will take place as it needs to. And then once all that's done, we then settle the project out. We use all the pre-sales to settle off the debt. I'll then already have pre-approval and finance in play to refinance and pay out the client debt with the 50% return. Or if you miss that after Friday, it'll be whatever the rate is adopted at that time. So that'll be all said and done at that timeline, and we go from there.
Excellent. Well, if there's no other questions, Trent, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, everyone, for turning up.
Appreciate that.
Lovely questions. There's a lot of them tonight.
Excellent. And look, if anyone's got any further questions, they can also reach out to James, grab his calendar. It's all over the website. And he's also just popped it in the chat there. So book a time up with James if you've got any further questions before you want to move ahead before Friday. And we look forward to seeing you on that project.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, everyone, for showing up. Do appreciate it. If there's any questions at all, just yell out and we'll be able to meet the requirements there and meet your needs.
Excellent. All right. Cool. Thanks, Trent. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, team.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.